We are live. All right. It says we are live. Hey guys, welcome back to Iron Archer Studios. Welcome to this episode of The Writer's Cut. This is episode 3 with my co-host Cam Griffith. Cam, anything you want to say to the audience?
Hello. As he said, I'm Cam Griffith. That's all I gotta say.
I'm really quick just texting the group chat that we are up and running. Anyways, so this is episode 3. We're going to be talking about 2 Netflix originals. I believe this is we've only had 3 episodes, but I believe this is the first episode where we have 2 of the same, or 2 things from the same, whatchamacallit?
Streaming service.
Yeah, there you go. And both originals, which is pretty cool. And both of them did really good on Netflix. I think Work It is still on top 4 of things to watch, and Umbrella Academy, people were obviously in dire need of that season 2. So we're going to be reviewing those, but before we go on to that, anything else you watched this week or the last 2 weeks?
I watched Palm Springs on Hulu.
Yeah. With Adam Sandberg, right?
Yeah, Andy Samberg. I also watched The Interview from 2014 with Seth Rogen, and I believe it's Dave. I think it's Dave Franco. I'm not sure which Franco brother it is. It's one of them, though.
Yeah. I know it's the one from 100 and I forgot how many hours, but I think it's James Franco. Because he's the older one. James Franco, yeah.
Yeah, so that's about all I watched. And of course, The Umbrella Academy and Work It.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. No movies or anything else like that?
No, I'm pretty sure those are the only 2, and I haven't caught up on any series except for The Umbrella Academy. So
no, that's cool. Yeah, I've definitely been wanting to watch Palm Springs. I keep seeing like the ads for it and everything like that, so I'm like, oh, I really want to watch it. And then there's, oh my god, who is it with? Pete Davidson is Long Island,
King of Staten Island.
Yeah, there we go. I want to watch that one so bad, but haven't gotten around to it.
And that's still on home premiere, I think. So I think it's like $20 to rent still.
Yeah, so I'm still kind of iffy on it, but I'm sure I'll watch it eventually. I'm sure it'll hop on a whatchamacallit, on a streaming service soon. But no, other than the 2 things that we're obviously going to talk about today, I did watch Harley Quinn, which is a DC show, an animated show, new one. It is pretty good. I liked it. It follows a lot of comic book, which I like. Then today I actually watched Birds of Prey, which wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it's cool. And I started watching Friends again. I know that. I started watching Friends again, and it's still making me laugh, surprisingly. I was kind of scared of rewatching it.
Friends is one of my all-time favorites, and the Harley Quinn show, that's sci-fi, right?
I don't know what they're classifying it as. I don't even know what they're classifying it as. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a sci-fi type of show, but then again, like sometimes they classify it as that, and I don't even think it is.
And is that on a streaming service or a cable channel?
It's on HBO Max.
HBO Max, okay.
Yeah, which I am having a blast with that streaming service. But yeah, no, I enjoyed everything I watched, to be honest. Besides Birds of Prey, that was the one I was kind of iffy on. But the actors did good, in my opinion. But anyways, moving on to what we're actually talking about. Do you want to start off with the movie or the show?
What did we do last time? I think last time we started off with the show, so we'll do the movie this time.
Okay. So, Work It with a a pretty young cast. I don't want to say pretty young, but they're pretty new onto. I'd say pretty new onto Hollywood. I recognize a lot of faces from Disney shows, and I mean with Liza Koshy into YouTube and things like that. So, um, going on to that, what are your first thoughts on it, and what are your ratings for the show or for the movie?
Well, going into it, I mean, I saw that Liza Koshy was going to be in it, and I think that's often a power in Hollywood that is abused to put YouTube influencers, which is like a huge thing for kids nowadays, into a
Mhm.
movie just so like they'll watch it. But Liza Koshy is a very talented actress.
Yeah.
So I don't think they made a mistake there by any means. And then Jordan Fisher, he was in the Teen Beach movies. I remember him in
Hmm.
those movies, and then as well as he was Evan Hansen in Dear Evan Hansen. So yeah, so it's definitely a very talented cast. And as for Sabrina Carpenter, like you said,
Yeah.
I only remember seeing her on Disney shows, and then the other ones were pretty new faces to me.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I recognize some of the faces. Like I recognize Sabrina Carpenter. She was on like Girl Meets World. Then Jordan Fisher, how you talked about, he was on Teen Beach Movie. Liza Koshy, and then I forgot his name, but the captain of Isaiah, the captain
Hmm.
of the Thunderbirds.
Hmm.
He was on. He was on Love Simon, and where else was he at? Oh, he was Flash. He was Kid Flash. Um,
Oh,
like
okay.
later on in the seasons, yeah. So I recognize a lot of their faces, and I admit it was good. They're talented. I didn't know Liza Koshy could act, or I didn't know like she was. Is this her first movie? Do you know?
I remember on YouTube there was a the YouTube Red thing. She had her own show on there, I think.
Mm,
But as far as like movies on separate streaming services or else or even anything outside of YouTube, I think this was the first thing that I ever saw her in.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I was definitely surprised. I would say she did a good job. Like, if this is her first, like, big time movie, I would say she did good.
Yeah.
Um, like, I'm not gonna say she's like the best in the game, but no, she did good. Um, I was definitely surprised. But moving on to like the actual story, how do you feel about that?
That's her story. Well, going into a movie like that, I a lot of Netflix original movies now, I feel like they have this main plot that they often can get distracted from with like romance because romance is a
Hmm.
huge is also a huge thing
Yeah,
within Netflix movies. So I mean, I definitely think it stayed very true to the plot, which is always a good thing. And it surprised me with how much I enjoyed it because I it wasn't really what I like to watch usually, but watching it, I was really surprised with how much I enjoyed it. Like I rated it probably an 8 out of 10.
yeah. I was gonna give it a 8 out of 10 too. I definitely agree with you on that romance side of things. I like Netflix is very well kind of known to doing a lot of like the romance movies, and I don't know why. Like I've from the last couple of Netflix originals, I feel like it's all been like romance and everything like that. And yeah, there was their touch of romance or like um, love affection during the movie. Love affection. I mean, I think I meant love tension. Uh, During the movie, but I don't think they definitely didn't make that the main plot of the story. Right now, like two of their biggest movies were Kissing Booth and Kissing Booth 2, and then there's the whole like Love Island thing. They're very much leaning on towards like love partnerships and things like that. So with this one, you're I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. They didn't get sidetracked with, okay, well now let's make this a love story instead of what the whole movie started off as.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, it just managed to stay true to its original plot all the way through, and which is for Netflix, I was fully expecting it not to. So when I saw that it stayed like to like the dance academy thing, and I will say that the plot got kind of cliche at points,
Oh
but
yeah.
no, it was for what I was expecting, like compared to what I was expecting, it was very well executed, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, like of course, like we expected a lot of those things, but I mean that's kind of a basic now when we see these movies. Like we've said it a lot with our previous shows and movies. Like a lot of things are getting cliche, and it's getting to the point where I don't know if I kind of just have to accept that, or if I have to push like, yo, make new stories. Because there was a lot of points where it was very cliche on what they said, and or not what they said, but like what happened in the movie and like the whole plot. Um, One of the things that caught me off guard was like um, when the college recruiter got fired. I was like, that what? Like that definitely did not. I wasn't expecting that. So it was a lot of things. Like it was cliche, but it still surprised me at some points.
Yeah, and it's always good to have like a fork in the road for the characters that you wouldn't usually expect, because with there's a very common formula with like love movies, which is kind of like what we're comparing it to, and the originality of love movies compared to the originality of this. Um, the love movies will have these two, like this, like maybe the shy girl or the shy guy that gets paired with a very outgoing girl or guy, and then or like the school jock with the school nerd or whatever, and like everyone's
Mm-hmm.
like they're such an unlikely duo, blah blah blah, and then we find out that it's because of some sort of challenge or like dare, or they didn't really love them the entire time, but like then
Mm-hmm.
we find out that they weren't faking anything, but then one of them can't forgive the other one, but then they end up together in the end. It's generic.
Yeah.
And uh but when you have different elements of your story, and when they're putting something on Netflix, they know that the creators, I would assume, know that they want everyone wants to put something out there that's different.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can throw a new obstacle at your characters that the audience wasn't expecting, that's always a plus. And like I've been saying this entire time, it's well executed.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, the relationship between Sabrina's character and Jordan's character, that definitely, it didn't feel like it was, to me that wasn't a cliche kind of thing that I've seen all the time. Like you said, normally with especially Netflix and Disney movies, to be honest, it's like it always seems like, oh, it's this, like you said, nerdy girl with this glamorous guy, this jock, or the opposite where it's the nerdy kid, geeky kid, skinny, scrawny, whatever, um, with this beautiful, gorgeous, according to the school, um, cheerleader or something like that, and then they end up together and like you said, oh, it was because of a dare or something like that. But with this one, like as soon as they met, you kind of felt the like you didn't think like, oh, they can't end up together. Like nobody said that, or nobody, or like when you saw it, it almost felt organic to me. To me, it felt organic in the way that the relationship kind of happened. It didn't feel forced to me.
Mm-hmm.
um, I feel like it made sense. Obviously, like I it's weird to say that love made sense, but like it made sense in the way that they portrayed it.
Yeah, and it was put on the back burner. Like it wasn't something that you had to focus on through the entire movie, and it wasn't crucial to the plot. So it wasn't, like you said, it didn't fall into the cliche category,
Yeah.
with it being like those two are never going to fall in love because they're like polar opposites, but instead it was put on the back burner, and it wasn't crucial to the plot that they had to be together, and it wasn't crucial to the plot that they didn't have to be together. It
Yeah,
wasn't. It was never something that you felt
needed to happen or anything like that.
needed to happen. But even if it did happen, it wouldn't affect anything that the story was trying to progress.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. There's like, I don't want to say that that relationship was pointless, but like it didn't even need to happen. Like it happened and it was good. Like they successfully did it. Um, but in reality, it didn't even need to happen. Like the story could have kept going even if they weren't in a relationship. Like the coach could have been like 20 something years old or like 30 something years old and still train them with the same kind of aspect, just no relationship with them. So, like I said, that relationship definitely didn't need to happen. And even though it did, I was, it was almost something that I haven't felt in a while. Like, I was surprised and like happy for them. Like I can't remember being happy for a couple since like Disney. So like seeing that with a Netflix movie, I was like, oh, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
good for you guys.
Right. Like you were saying, it was a pleasant surprise to see that
Hmm.
it wasn't at the forefront and pushed, but it still happened, and you could still feel happy for the characters.
Yeah. Um, so earlier in the stream, you said these aren't the types of movies that you've kind of gone out of your way to see. Um, is that are you speaking of like dancing movies or like competing or like a competition movie? Like what was that referring to?
Really, dance movies, and not to
Dance
say,
movies, yeah.
of course, not to say that they're bad, because I've seen Bring It On and I enjoyed it, Step Up and I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I've even seen Footloose and I enjoyed it, and those all have the dancing base to them. But
Yeah.
I didn't. None of these movies I've ever. I couldn't say that I hate them, but again, they're just not for me,
Yeah.
and that's perfectly fine. And it's perfectly
Yeah. No.
fine if that was like the perfect movie for you and it's a 10 out of 10 for you. Again, that's fine, and it's all about opinion. But then another
Yeah.
thing, like I went into it and I was like thinking, like I said, I was just thinking that it was going to be another Netflix cliche, so that
Yeah.
also like added points, for lack of a better word, for me, because it wasn't the same as what I was expecting.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that. Um yeah, I enjoyed it. Like you said, I don't watch dancing movies really that much. I have been looking into like dancing and I don't know why, but like um I kind of like went deep into kind of looking into dancing and stuff like that. And, you know, here we are kind of telling a story and we're trying to tell stories and we're reacting to stories. Um, Dancing, I realized that it has the same kind of effect to a lot of people. And to me, I kind of saw it. Dancing, you can tell a story with dancing. And, I know it's obviously not a written thing. It's not something we can react to on here, but um, I don't know if that's one of the reasons that made me enjoy the movie so well because to me, I kind of looked a little deep into it. I don't know if I looked too deep into it, but kind of while they were dancing, I saw a story with them and the way they all danced, I saw kind of their background behind them. So like the kid with the glasses that was like in karate or something like that. Like while he was dancing, he had kind of like those little aspects. And obviously with Sabrina's character, hers weren't the best. They were kind of very robotic and sloppy. And then with Liza's, you could see like the very like I don't want to say elegant, but smooth um, kind of transition or like movements with the rocker girl or like emo girl. I don't know what they're classifying her as. You could see like how hers were still smooth but a little rough. Like they were emphasized a lot more. So I don't know if I looked a little too deep into it, But it was special to me, kind of seeing that and that they went that far in. There was one problem that I kind of had um, with the dancing, and that was with Sabrina's character. I get it, like the whole you have to feel the music, but I mean, like as soon as she felt it, um, like she was just like a pro, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's one problem that I had with like the dancing of the movie, where it was just like, oh, I feel it now, so I'm like a pro. I can do this.
Yeah, and that's where I was talking about how like the cliche points come in.
Yeah,
That was definitely one of them. And
yeah,
like you were saying, like the character development in the movie, other than that, like the character development through dance in the movie, other than what we were just talking about, it's very good. And the character development outside of the dance was kind of lacked a little bit, which is okay because it was supposed to be about dance and it was supposed to be about their journeys through dance and whatever else.
yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. I mean, there was a little lackluster of character development without the dancing part. Um, One of the biggest ones that I feel like I saw character lack of was, or a development between two characters was with Sabrina and her mom. With those two characters, I feel like I don't like. Obviously, I didn't want this whole backstory of everything, but I mean, I feel like it was a little needed sometimes because I was just like, okay, well, you just want your daughter to do this. That's it. Like, it felt a little. That's one of the biggest ones that I felt like was lacking.
Yeah, and some of that stuff like what you said with how she was just a pro at dancing and how her mom like pushed her to do this. Some of that stuff is in there just to push the story along, and it's not necessarily executed well. But when you're sitting down at a writer's table, I would imagine it'd be different because you everything has to work in a continuity, and sometimes you would have to decide the lesser of two evils. Do I want to push this without like developing it more, or do I want to have a really slow drug out movie that's too long for it to enjoy?
Yeah, of course. Um, that's definitely understandable. Because they obviously did it for a reason. Like they know more than me right now, obviously. But like they obviously knew what they were doing in the sense that they're not going to drag out this whole entire movie and make it like all about this one character and then all about this one character and develop a whole bunch of things into one movie. It would turn out to like 3 hours.
Right, and like you were saying, just like you can't have it be drug out. So, and then back to what I was saying, you just have to make a sacrifice
Yeah,
to sum it up.
yeah. Which the sacrifice, in my opinion, they did good on it. They didn't do the wrong sacrifice. They could have sacrificed the dancing and like they were like that probably would have been the bad choice, seeing as the dancing was a big part of the um, movie. I was just pulling this up really quick to kind of show the names of the characters because I completely forgot every name. Um, can you see my mouse? Yes, you can. All right. So one of the things I do really quick want to talk about, and it's just because I saw him. This kind of partnership to me was pointless. This part of the story was pointless. This was like a side story that in my opinion, I really didn't need.
Yeah, and that's a thing. Like they could have taken out that bit. If you were to ask me, they could have taken out that bit and then devoted more time to Sabrina Carpenter's character and her mother's relationship, which I don't really understand why they did. Maybe they had a reasoning, but it just didn't translate well. But I'm not the one who wrote the show, so
Yeah, of course.
you couldn't ask me.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like this was kind of pointless to me. How did you feel about um, Isaiah, the antagonist? Like, how did you feel about him? Because for me, I was kind of iffy on him. It felt very stereotypical antagonist, and like a very. We talked about it with Scoob, and we talked about it with Outer Banks. How they were trying to make it feel like a young movie set for teenagers. I feel like they really pushed that with that character specifically.
Yeah, it reminded me very much of like a Disney Channel character,
Yeah.
Disney Channel villain. But again, like you can't nitpick that too much because while it would have been better if it was more like higher stakes with the villain, I personally don't want to nitpick it too much just because the movie's about dance
Yeah.
and it's not about the antagonist because what you're really trying to develop is that these characters have come together through dance and they're expressing themselves through dance and they're developing through dance and just but if I could have changed the villain and his motive, maybe I don't know if you can really call it a motive, but if I could have changed it, then I would have.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up Work It. Description, I guess. I don't want to pull up Netflix because I feel like that's when I'd get sued. Um, no, that's not it. Work. That's supposed to say Work It. Um, yeah, no, I mean like the character for his character, everything was very cliche in my opinion. Um, I didn't feel like surprised about anything. I knew he was going to do something about uh, Jordan's character being their coach. I knew he was going to do something about a lot of things. I knew he was going to change by the end of it because he lost. But I won't complain. I won't complain.
Yeah, and like we were talking about another cliche point, just the predictability of it.
Yeah.
But again, if that's something that's wrong with the movie and it doesn't affect the main plot, then I guess go for it.
Yeah. I mean, the main plot was successful in my opinion. Like I said, I enjoyed it. My ratings would be 8.8 point. I don't know why I was going to say 8 point. 8 out of 10. Leaning if it was like with the point system, I would lean it more towards a 9 because I did enjoy it, and surprisingly, um, like I said earlier, I don't know if it's because I went a little too deep, but like seeing those little details of how they told a story through their dancing and things like that, I really enjoyed. Um, just like for me, the small little details count.
For sure, and that always makes up for lack in other parts when you add little details. So again, going back to the little cliche points with the villain, and Sabrina Carpenter's kind of the beginning of her dance journey. Um, when you add, as filmmakers, when you add those little details, I feel like it makes up for people watching it like us. They can kind of
Yeah,
begin to forgive some of the bigger stuff through the finer details.
yeah, definitely. I mean, like they they lost me. I not lost me, but like I forgot about the things that I was like being like, oh, what is this? Because like again, the little details that I saw in there were definitely um like worth it and made the story, in my opinion, even better.
Right, right.
Yeah. Any last kind of thoughts um, on Work It?
Just overall, very surprising. Surprising that I enjoyed it. And again, would rate it an 8 out of 10. And for what it was, and for how much I thought I was gonna enjoy it, again, is very surprising, and I would watch it again.
Yeah, like I said, definitely enjoyed it. I was surprised too at the end of the day. Like these aren't the types of movies I watch. Like jeez, if you watch my previous like videos and things like that, anybody knows that like my thing is has to be geeky. It has to be like, I don't know, like Sherlock Holmes, things like that. Like I want to say serious movies, but like not really. So I was surprised. I enjoyed it. I was happy with it. Um, so that being said, we both gave it a 8 out of 10. For Rotten Tomatoes, it got like 80 something. On Netflix, like I said, it's still number 4 on a on like the top things to watch. And then I believe for ID, or is it, what is it? IDM? Not IDM.
IMDb.
IMDb. There we go. Thank you. It got like a 6.2 out of 10, but that's them. Moving on to, I would say, the bigger one out of the two. I don't know if that's a little biased, but I think I would say the bigger one out of the two. Moving on to Umbrella Academy. What are your first thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a very complex, intricate show, and like you said, like you were talking about with like the geeky appeal, it definitely has it. And just the starting thoughts, the overall what I thought about it, I really enjoyed it because because we decided that we were gonna cover season 2, and
Mm-hmm.
I actually ended up watching seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, just first opening thoughts, I really, really enjoyed it.
yeah. So did I. Um, I it's to me, it's not like the normal like superhero kind of, because like they are based off of uh comics. They're based off of Dark Horse Comics, which has Hellboy, and I can't remember if they have Spawn, but like one of their big ones is Hellboy. And now with the show, I mean, I never knew about Umbrella Academy before the show, but now with Umbrella Academy being like a Netflix original, it probably brought a lot of attention to Dark Horse again onto this franchise. So I definitely enjoyed it. It to me, well, I won't start talking about that yet, but my ratings out of season 2, because I did end up watching season 1 and 2 as well. Um, but my rating for season 2 would be, it's gonna be high, and I'm gonna say a 9 out of 10.
I was about to say the same thing. For season 2, standing alone, definitely a 9 out of 10 for me as well.
Yeah. Um, One of the things I really enjoyed about this season, and it cut, well, yeah, the season, I am really glad, because a lot of shows do this nowadays, and they leave us off on a cliffhanger for season 1, and or like the finale for season 1, they leave us on a cliffhanger, and then season 2, what a lot of shows are doing is they like fix the problem on the first episode, and then they just like continue everything else. For this one, what I really enjoyed, and I don't know if people like the fact that they solve it all in one episode, but in my opinion, um, I really enjoyed that it wasn't just a one-off episode to get Back to the Future. It was kind of the whole, maybe not the whole thing, but it had to do with a lot of it. And I was glad about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like we were saying, I don't like how in a show they'll end with a problem in season 1 and then just decide to fix it in season 2 and then move on to a main plot, because then that kind of loses. Why would you ever have done that in season 1?
Yeah, the cliffhanger, like it's not really needed.
Yeah. So yeah, and you can definitely tell that it was all very planned, and again, it's based off of comics, so there has to be some planning behind it to appeal to comic book fans, so they don't not enjoy it because of inaccuracy.
Yeah, which I've never read the comics. I would like to. I was like, as soon as I kind of saw the show, I was intrigued and I like looked up the comics and things like that. So I was I was happy with it, and I want to actually read on into like the comics. The one reason that I'm not really pushing that is because I don't want like spoilers for season 3, which obviously there is season 3 coming on. But like we'll talk about that later of how like kind of things ended off and things during it. Um, I hope people watching this know that all of our content is spoilers. Um, so hopefully nobody's going to be disappointed about that. But yeah, no, like I guess it kind of depends on the cliffhanger you leave off for season 1, I but for certain cliffhangers that you leave off for the previous season, you have to make it a bigger story than just one episode. And that's what Umbrella Academy did, and that's what made me really happy and made me really enjoy it, was that the fact that this was a continuous story, kind of this was a continuous plot throughout the story where um like well, like we said, it wasn't just finished in one episode or 2 episodes. It became like the whole reason um, the finale was there and everything like that.
Right. And like you said, the problem is existent throughout season 2, and then it kind of finishes up towards the end, but it's not the end.
Yeah.
And then but there's still like some problems that are dwindling because of the main problem, because the main bit of the season is in uh the 1960s, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're in the 1960s, and so you can kind of watch that and then focus on that main problem, and then as you go on, and that problem can end, but there's still just pieces of the puzzle that were never solved that
Yeah.
the show can continue off of.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and even when, like at the beginning for season, uh, or not season, but like episode 1 with, geez, I forgot his name, but, oh, the guy, Hazel and Cha-Cha, I can't remember who he was. Was he Cha-Cha? I don't remember. But they even explained what happened to him through that time between season 1 and season 2, where like they kind of explained that, yeah, he lived his life. Yeah. Um, this is what happened. This is why his I'm going to say his partner. I don't know if it's wife, but why his partner isn't a part of the story anymore. And it was a very kind of quick off. Like it happened very quick on how he died, but like it was still like a part of the. It was still a part of the story.
Yeah, and like I was saying, like filling in pieces of the puzzle. The show is very good at doing that. The show is very
Mm-hmm.
good at solving the main problem, but whilst doing that, like on the way, like not having to focus on it too much, but on the way, the audience starts to pick up on things that they can fill in the gaps
Yeah,
with.
yeah, definitely. Um,
And then
they definitely.
with like hit some.
You're good. You're good.
I was just gonna say, like with who you like Hazel and Cha Cha, their story is still able to be finished, but you don't have to take away a whole episode for it necessarily.
Yeah, they
The-
tell. I mean, I complained about it with Outer Banks, but I feel like with Outer Banks, it was a little messier. With this one, they're telling multiple stories like throughout the whole season, and they're doing a good job of keeping it clean and keeping me still on the loop of things, not confused, and still enjoying not only the main plot line of the whole season, but these whole other like sideline stories.
right, and it's just to sum it up, it's well paced. and
Yeah.
it's done in a way that the audience can enjoy it, but without being overwhelmed, but still be concerned for each individual problem. Because this show has a lots of lovable characters, so each different audience member might attach to a different storyline more than the others based on which characters are involved in that storyline.
Yeah. Um, I'm going on to that. What was like one of the characters that, or one of the storylines that you most got attached to?
I really liked Klaus's story, uh,
Definitely.
but there was another one, and I can't remember what her name is, but she went to a southern home, a home on a home in the south, and I believe the little boy's name is Hardin.
Oh, Vanya. Vanya. Okay.
Vanya, yes, and he kind of developed powers at some point, and I wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily sure because I got roped into that because I wasn't sure if Vanya somehow gave him the powers or Vanya was just a coincidence or Vanya was drawn to him because he had the powers beforehand.
Yeah. That's definitely like a good take on it. Um, yeah. I mean, one of the my favorite like stories for them was number five's like number five storyline. And I know in the comics he's called the boy, but I don't think they've referenced him that as that. I think they just keep calling him like five. Um, but yeah, his is one of the most like ones that I really enjoyed throughout both seasons, to be honest.
Yeah, and he got a lot more light on his story in season 2, I think.
Yeah,
And he's a really enjoyable character, and so fans of 5 were definitely bound to enjoy the second season.
yeah, definitely. Um, so I wanted to talk about now, kind of really moving on to spoilers. Um, well, actually, before we go on to like big spoilers like that, um, one thing that I did have to mention about the show was that I said earlier this was one of my favorite like superhero shows that I haven't been watching a lot of superhero shows. Um, like it's Arrow finished a while ago, Flash finished a while ago. The Daredevil series, like I liked season 1 and that was really it. Um, and like every other Marvel movie, not Marvel movie, but Marvel TV show, I really wasn't like a big fan of. I know Punisher did good, but I never like got really attached to it. But this one of the things I really enjoyed about it was that their powers weren't the main thing of the whole story. Like, yes, they do have to do with like obviously they have to talk about the powers, but there's storylines where they talk about just them being a family, them being people. With who was it? I forgot. Is it number? But Rumor. I know that's how I know her from like the comics. I forgot her name, but um, Rumor, um, like how she kind of start. I don't know if she started, but like she started helping the is it revolution or the movement? The movement for like the beginning of Black Lives Matters on their time. Like it didn't completely stray away. They obviously kept that she has um a a power, but the storyline of like that has nothing to do with her power, or like Luther's when he worked for the big mafia. uh, I really liked it. And Diego's, even though he loves his powers and things like that, him wanting to be a hero and his story of him trying to save Kennedy, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and that's another thing with the show, like you were mentioning with her story, it ties in with real life events that were happening at the time,
Mm-hmm.
so you can kind of identify with them, or cheer for them in that way. But then also that's another thing that ropes audiences in is the draw or the interest in characters that each individual audience member can latch onto, and that's just another thing that makes the show overall more in depth and enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. It's good. I liked it. Obviously there's going to be people out there kind of saying like, oh, this is wrong about the story, or like about the timeline. This didn't happen until then, or this actually didn't happen, or things like that. But I mean, at that point, it's like, dude, we're watching a show. Just like take the story in, even if it's not historically. Which that even happened with Hamilton, where like people were like, actually. It's like, dude, just watch the show.
Right. The show is there to be the show, and it's there to develop its own storyline. And you can't really go with Work It. We were saying you can't really go at it for the villain because that's not the main plot point.
Part of it, yeah.
But don't let yourself get too distracted with the little things when you're supposed to be there to enjoy the show.
Yeah. Sometimes the little things are obviously important, and but like it's one of those things where it's like, don't focus on the little things that make the show, I guess, bad. I guess like focus on the little things that make the show even better, like little details that show like, oh, whoa, they really remember to put this, or like, do you remember how this character has this? Well, here we go. It's still part of that character. So I was definitely happy about that.
Yeah, and it's always up to you as the audience member as to how much you enjoy it. You can go into something and want to nitpick it, and that'll make you hate it. But you can go into something completely open-minded, and you'll love it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even every now and then you'll go into something open-minded and you might not like it, but at least you went in it to enjoy it. And that's one of the things we're trying to do here is we don't watch a show or we don't watch a movie to criticize it. We watch it to enjoy it, and then we kind of say our thoughts on it. Like how we talked about Work It earlier, we're not really we don't know those or we don't watch those types of movies a lot, but if we went in it open-minded, and we ended up enjoying it. It was cool. I liked it. Moving on to the big spoilers now. Hopefully most of you, if you guys were watching this back, can skip through this if you guys haven't seen it. But moving on to the big spoilers, like I said, I haven't read the comics, so everything that I saw there was huge to me. It was like, whoa.
Right. I might have a little bit of reverb. Do I?
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay, yeah, and I was gonna say this, going into it as having not read the comics, there's so much for you to pick up on, being completely new with it.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that's unfortunate with that, like you said, you might not want to read the comics now because you got hooked on the show, not the comics. So now before you want to read the comic, you want to see how the show ends.
Yeah. Because, I mean, even a similar thing to that is The Walking Dead. A lot of people read the comics, and sometimes people get disappointed at why they didn't do this instead of this, because the comics did this, but the show didn't do this. So that not only does it create further spoilers for me moving on to season 3, but it also kind of sets me up for enjoyment of the show, because it's like, oh my god, they did this from the comics, but it also sets me up for disappointment in a way, because it's like, oh, they didn't do this, but the comics did this. Why didn't they do that?
Yeah, and that absolutely goes back to like what started you on the fandom or the overall story.
Yeah,
Like, because
yeah,
like you said, if you read the comics, you're going to be disappointed that something from the comics wasn't included. But if you watch the show and then read the comics, you're disappointed because now your favorite show has been spoiled for you in some sense.
yeah. Um, so I can't remember what happened first. So we saw Vanya kind of give him the powers. I didn't really expect him to get powers. Powers. That kind of caught me off a surprise. Did you like that he ended up with powers?
Yeah, because that always leaves a window open for future
Yeah,
storylines that can tie in with the main siblings. But it always has to be, and it always this is obvious, but it has to be executed well. They can't
yeah,
they can't flood the audience with, like with Outer Banks did. They can't flood the audience with subplots and then have them drowning while the show just continues to move on and the show continues to become bigger and bigger, because that'll take away the enjoyment.
yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I definitely don't want that to happen. With the story because I'm enjoying it a lot. And like I said, this is one of my favorite superhero shows. And I haven't seen, I mean, I don't know if they're classifying it as a superhero show, but I would. But like, I have not enjoyed a show of this genre in a very long time like I enjoyed this. So what they're
Right.
doing right now, I'm liking. I really enjoy. Um, and it's gonna be a weird way how they play it out and how they touch on that because he is back. He's still in 1963. He is still in that time, but the whole Umbrella Academy or Team Zero. I don't know what team. Like I don't know what name they're going by now, but like all of them are now back to 2019 to like where they should be. So they're times away. So it's not like I guess he can grow up and like he's gonna be a huge character because he's grown up. But I don't know. Like it'll be interesting on how they play with that.
Yeah, and that could always send them back to 1963, or he could be an old man stuck in a child's body, like 5. And
Yeah.
there's just so much that they could do with it, but
Yeah.
it always has to be well put in.
Yeah. Definitely. Um, it'd be. I feel like I don't want to like say it, but I feel like they would do um something how like they did with in Marvel, how they did Captain America with Peggy, how like they're gonna come back and now uh his mother is gonna be really old, but like she's still gonna care about her and things like that. I don't want to say that. I could be completely wrong. I don't know. I just have a feeling that that could happen. Um,
Yeah,
in
and
my
that's another
opinion, I really wouldn't want it to happen.
yeah, and that's another thing. Like, the show is just so, like, with like all its different intricacies, it's so open to different theories.
Yeah,
And whether you enjoy the theories or not, there's so many of them that you could fathom that could actually
yeah,
happen within the show, which is another thing that makes it super enjoyable for fans. But with that specific situation, I, like, me personally, I don't know what I would want to happen, because like you said, there's some things that wouldn't be bad for the show, but that I personally wouldn't want. But maybe a huge majority of audience members would.
yeah,
So looking at it for me, like my like ideal thing to happen would be Harden sometime, like somehow created a gap in the space time continuum, kind of continuing with like the time aspect of the show, and then they
yeah,
have to go back and get him to stop him or bring him back to 2019 to repair something that he's messed with.
yeah,
It's just like I said, it's just so open, and which is another thing that makes it super enjoyable, because while the show's not on, there's always something for a fan to enjoy, because they can create their own storylines continuing from
Yeah,
what I saw.
yeah. Sorry. Like we already like moving on to the big kind of spoiler and a big cliffhanger from season 2 was we already see that when they come back, there's already a change in the timeline. So they could easily loop him into that and be like, oh, this is why, because Harden was back then and they saw that he had powers. So now it's like maybe not only Ben has powers, like maybe a lot of other people in the timeline have powers. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know how the comics take it. So it's going to be interesting to see. So one of the big things for the whole season was I know he comes back, but when Ben died, how do you feel about that?
I mean, in season 1, we didn't get lots of Ben at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Season 2, we got tons of Ben. So if you're a fan of Ben, like Ben is probably my third favorite. So just seeing more of him, I kind of enjoyed, but that's just me because I enjoyed him as a character.
Yeah.
So seeing how his story was panned out, I enjoyed that, but that might just be because I'm biased to that character.
Yeah. I definitely, I feel like if Ben was still alive, I feel like he'd definitely be the glue of the whole family. Because that's kind of how they treat him. And I feel like that from what I took it as, I feel like that's what they made it look like in season 1, where it's like after Ben, a lot of things kind of went south. And that's when a lot of people kind of started leaving and things like that. So, I mean, obviously it wasn't completely based off of that, off of Ben, but like we even saw in season 2 with Klaus, like the reason Ben died was when he started using drugs and things like that and started abusing drugs. Yeah.
Right. And going back to what I was saying, like I'm biased because I like it, but I can see where people don't. And like where like you said, how he would be like the glue of the family. You might not like that, but I do, just because like I said, I'm biased, so it's hard to put my input on
Yeah.
like negative towards him, just because if it has anything to do with him, I'm gonna enjoy it. And I know I keep repeating myself, but I don't want to say anything against it because I don't want to, because I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, no, like we all say, we're all entitled to our own opinions. But yeah, no, when he dies originally, I was very sad. I didn't cry or anything like that, but it hit me. I was like, oh no, and then
Yeah.
because Vanya really, it was just that interaction with Vanya and Ben that made me feel a different way. We obviously all kind of saw everybody kind of say hi to Ben when he was when he took control of Klaus's body, but just that interaction with Vanya and Ben, I was like, oh geez, like okay, that's kind of stinging there a little bit. And then Vanya telling Klaus, like, you're not the reason Ben didn't go to the light. I was like, oh my god, like, oh, geez, dude.
Yeah. and it
It
stings because you don't want that to happen to him, but then you're like, but the story is good, and this is a way
yeah,
that makes the story better. And I like I said, I love that part of the story.
yeah. Um, I loved it. I loved it the whole way through. And yeah, you're right that Ben really wasn't a lot in season one, but he was more in season two, and I really enjoyed that. I liked kind of seeing him because now I almost saw him as his own person. Because in season one, really, when I was watching that, I felt like Ben was like, oh, Ben is just someone Klaus sees. But in this season, they really made him out to be like Ben is his own character. Like he has his own thoughts. He is separate to Klaus, even though only Klaus can see him.
Right, and that's a very hard thing to do. Like making the show, I would feel it'd be difficult to do because he is almost not really a figment of Klaus's imagination, but he is sort of limited by how much Klaus is developed as a character
Yeah,
because he is in a sense he is a part of Klaus.
yeah,
So when when you watch the show and you want things for Ben, it's kind of just like this punch in the gut because you know that some of the things you want him to become his own independent person and you want him to discover himself, but he kind of has to do that through Klaus. So it's only you're like I said, you're just limited by how much Klaus develops until you can see Ben develop, which is why I like season 2 more than season 1 because
yeah,
it begins to do that.
definitely. Yeah, it definitely is hard to tell Ben's story because he is limited to really only one character. Like he can only have one character interaction. He obviously knows what they're saying and he reacts to what they say, but like the only one that can really talk to him is Klaus.
Yeah, and they'll never like the rest of the siblings. They'll never be able to see his reactions. So their relationships with Ben are always gonna be restricted or limited.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why Vanya and Ben really like why that really hit me when he kind of like started just shattering and well going away unfortunately. But I was one of the things I really enjoyed about season 2 was I enjoyed that they finally gave Vanya like some respect.
Right.
Vanya, go ahead.
She got her rite of passage almost. And season 2 obviously expands on tons more characters, but going back to like how it ties in with real life events, you get so much more from her from that, and it just overall makes for a better story.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm glad that like one of the things that made me smile really was when she's off to go help Harold and his mom, but like she thinks she's alone, and then everybody kind of hops on in the car with her. And one of the things that I was really impressed by, I don't know if it felt like that to you, but to me it did. There was one joke in there that kind of really made me appreciate it. Was in the sense that so in that scene they talk to, they're all like, "Oh, we're gonna come with you," and then Luther comes in, and it's this big-hearted like. It's this big heart moment, and then he says a joke where it's like, if anybody says a fat joke, I'm leaving, which that's a joke in itself, but what I really appreciated about that joke and what I really appreciated about the entire series was that the jokes that they put in there, they don't take away from the story. They don't feel forced. They don't feel like, to me, they didn't feel like, oh, we have to make you laugh. It was more of like, this is an actual reaction to something. Like, I feel like I would have said that, or anybody would have said that.
Right, and that's what we talk about a lot. How like with Scoob and Outer Banks, like the modernness that they were trying to push destroys the storyline. With stuff like that, it adds to the overall appeal to the show, but it doesn't take away from it in any way that it's an overbearing amount of comedy and
Yeah.
this heartful moment between pretty much everyone involved in that scene, and it develops them as characters while putting that comedy in there, and it's just kind of slipped in there to make the audience laugh, but it's not saying that the audience has to laugh in order to enjoy the scene.
Yeah, because to me that felt like a family moment to me. That felt like a family member would have said that to me. Like, I feel like that joke, it was natural in the sense that it wasn't like, I didn't feel like it wasn't needed, but even though it did happen, it didn't feel like it took away from that moment.
Right, and it if anything, it really added to the moment, because it added the how comfortable they are around each other, and how much they care for each other, and just the fact that in that situation they're still able to make a joke because they feel comfortable together, and they feel that when they are together they're stronger.
Yeah, one of the things that, kind of thinking about it right now, one of the things that really kind of makes me appreciate this show was that so many movies and other things like that are afraid to have, so one joke gets told but nobody laughs at it in the actual, like, in that scene. With a lot of with this scene specifically, he says that joke and kind of the whole family chuckles because it's like, it was on purpose. Like, it's a family thing. So I'm glad that the family didn't stay like serious or anything like that. Like, they made it feel like a family, and they let the characters react to that joke instead of how other movies do it and how other shows do it, where it's like, this joke gets told, but it's literally only for the audience instead of the characters.
Yeah, and it shows that despite them being their own people, and despite them being with superpowered, before any of that, they are a family, and they are there for each other, and they're a team, they're a unit.
Yeah. Talking about, so kind of moving on now onto the really big boys, Reginald Hargreaves, and then the ending of it. So first, let's talk about Reginald Hargreaves. We both obviously haven't read the comics. When he took off his face, how do you feel about that?
I mean, in the comics, that does happen in the comics, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So that source material is there, so it doesn't by any means to me feel forced or feel like it doesn't belong. But I feel like maybe we could have held on to that for a little bit longer, and then it would have been more of a boom if it would have waited to a little, even just a little bit later.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it didn't land correctly just because of where it was placed, but that's just me.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. in my opinion, I really enjoyed it. I'm having so many voice cracks, but anyways, I enjoyed it. Like we've both said, we're all entitled to our own opinions, but I enjoyed the fact that seeing that. One of the things that I was disappointed within that was that no major character reacted to that, and I don't know if that's kind of where you're going. But that's one of the things I was disappointed at, was because like not like side characters reacted to it. Imagine if one of the major characters reacted to it, a main character reacted to it. That would have been insane to them. Um, or
Right.
like if one of them had to keep that a secret, like that would have been huge. I still really enjoyed that scene, and it caught me off guard. I was like, "Whoa, okay, whoa, what's happening here?" And then seeing it, I was like, "Okay, all right then."
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely got that element of surprise, but literally the exact reason I didn't enjoy it is the exact reason you just explained. The main characters didn't have any reaction. So to me it just it just felt as if that if the main characters were more into that scene, then it just obviously because the main characters are the main progression of the show.
Hmm.
So if they were to have a bigger reaction to it, I just feel like it would have made the scene all that better. And maybe it's not even the placement like I was trying to say. Maybe it's just the way it was, the way it happened. But I feel like if it happened differently, it would have put more to the show and all.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the ways I'm taking that scene as is more of a tease to what's to come, especially in season 3, because I feel like they're going to touch on that in season 3. Um, so to me, that felt like a tease. That's what it was to me, and obviously that would have been more part of the storyline if a main character was there, or if that happened in a different case. Like we said, it was just all side characters that reacted to it. Like, yeah, they were surprised, but I like, okay, now you're dead, and now like I also didn't care about you before. You are now not going to contribute to the story. Like that's it. Um, so if a main character was there and they got to see that, that would have been like, okay, whoa, and that would have developed a storyline. But to me, in my opinion, it really more set up a teaser for what's to come.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I thought with Harden's story. Like it
Yeah,
didn't touch on it too much, but it could play a huge part in the future. And that's just pacing.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what we both thought about that. Different opinions, but that's okay. And I mean, let us know what you guys thought about that, because I'm sure if you've read the comics, if I'm sure some people didn't like it. For people who've read the comics, I'm sure you guys liked it, or you guys knew that it was going to happen. Just comment down below on what you guys thought um, about that particular scene. But moving on to the big finale of it, they finally go back home, or yeah, they finally go back to 2019. The doomsday is over. Both doomsdays are over, and now we are hit with a returning character, even though he was gone for like an episode, I believe, but a returning character. Uh, where so Reginald Hargreaves, they walk in there, they Umbrella Academy says like, "Yo, we're home." He says, "No, we're not." They turn around. We see these silhouettes, and I have a question on that. But then we also see uh, Ben with different hairstyle, different kind of look, uh, and again, it's one of those kind of teaser things, a cliffhanger, obviously. But what do you think about that?
I really liked it. I think it had lots of dramatic value to it. So I liked it in that aspect, and I liked it in the sense that that is so easy to carry on to. and they made it in a way that I'm very, very excited to see how it does carry on.
Yeah. One of the things that I really enjoyed was five. Five is the oldest one there, and five knows all about this time travel stuff. One of the things that to me was funny was that and I feel like I'm right. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will correct me. But after they see Ben and after they see the team up top, uh, and like it kind of pans out above them, he's the one I hear say like shit, like basically, oh okay, well we fucked up again. So that's one of the small little details that because they could have kept all of them silent and been like, because keeping them all silent, they would have been surprised. That clearly shows like, oh, they're all shocked. But having that little detail in there, kind of being like, remember that Five knows all about this stuff. Five is the older one, and he's the one that's like, oh shit, like okay, we messed up again, basically.
Yeah, and like that also could make the audience think like, okay, they really messed up, because if they stay silent, because like they all stay silent, but the fact that Five knows the most and he's the most concerned makes the audience really concerned as well.
Yeah, definitely. But one of the questions I had was, so we see a silhouette of the Umbrella Academy kind of on the not the bleachers, but like the second floor. Do you think it's gonna be a different Umbrella Academy? And I'm talking like different characters, different powers, different thing like that, or do you think it's just gonna be duplicates of them?
I feel like it'll have something to do with time. So like maybe them in different stages of their life. That's what I thought most likely, because Five is kind of has that similar trait in common, if that is what happens.
Yeah.
And he is the most concerned, so I thought it would have to do with him, but I don't think it's like he is like an older version of someone trapped in a younger version of themselves. But it is that person, and they are in the right version of themselves, but they collide with the Umbrella Academy as them as younger, older. I feel like it'll have something to do with time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a good is analysis the right word? I don't know. But yeah, no, definitely that's definitely an interesting idea. Just the silhouettes really kind of threw me off because it's like if they were duplicates of them, then obviously just show them. Like no biggie, in my opinion.
Right.
But the fact that they were silhouettes, I don't remember like the exact shape of all of them, but like it was just that matter that I was like, well now hold up.
Yeah.
Like why are they being kind of secretive about it?
They don't want you to know.
Yeah, and I do believe that obviously it is going to have to do with time because obviously Reginald Hargreaves should be dead. Ben should be dead. So, yeah, it's most likely going to have to do with time. But, yeah, to me, that was just a little like, oh, how come they were a silhouette and not just show them?
For sure.
Yeah. Any kind of last thoughts on Umbrella Academy?
Really enjoyed it. To put it the plainest way I can, I really enjoyed it. Definitely has plenty of room for future storylines, and I'm definitely gonna watch season 3.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, to the audience, definitely stay tuned for when season 3 comes out because I'm pretty sure we'll be reviewing that one, season 3. So stay tuned, guys. Every other Sunday we'll be uploading this this show, this series. But my final thoughts on it, like I said, or like you said, just to put it simply, is I really enjoyed it. That's really all I have to say. I loved it. I had a blast watching it. The music was amazing. The cinematography was amazing. The lighting I could actually see, and I wasn't too. It wasn't too. I don't know what I'm trying to like lead at, but like the lighting was good. The
It had a nice
storyline was
aesthetic.
good. Yeah, that's kind of where I was trying to head to. So I enjoyed it. I was I was happy with it. So we really didn't talk about Work It. I know we said I believe I'm pretty sure we all know that an Umbrella Academy season 3 is coming. Do you believe a Work It 2 can come in?
I
Because
mean,
it was popular.
it was popular, and sometimes companies will just go for a sequel just because the first one was popular,
Yeah.
and there's not necessarily a way that they could bring it back, but then that also means that there's not necessarily a way that they couldn't.
Yeah.
So one is
Um,
it's likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if I never saw one.
Yeah, because the story is over, in my opinion. Like it has its happy ending. Leave it at that, in my opinion. But they want their money, obviously. So yeah, that is it for this episode of the Writer's Cut. We reviewed Work It and the Umbrella Academy season 2. We did talk about season 1 a little bit, but the main topic was season 2. If you guys enjoyed this episode, we do these every other Sunday. Next Sunday, we will be doing an episode of Behind the Screens. I'm trying to get our good friend Russ on there. Hopefully he can. I'm asking him to let me know by Thursday. So hopefully he can hop on. He'd be a dope guest. And just let me know what other guests you guys would like to see, and let us know what other movies and series you guys like to see. I know Jason earlier said we should check out Doom Patrol. Would you have any way of checking that out?
Do I?
Yeah.
What's the streaming service?
I believe it's on the DC streaming services and the HBO Max streaming service.
Okay. So I do think I have HBO Max, so I will
Okay.
get back to you on that.
Okay. So yeah, we can possibly check out Doom Patrol. But if you guys have any other ideas for that, we normally try and talk about it before we start the stream, but I don't know what we could watch. I don't think there's a lot out right now. I do know that once the once the Marvel TV shows come out for the Disney Plus exclusives, I want to talk about those. There's WandaVision, there's Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and there's Loki. I want to talk about those when those come out, but those are in a while. So if you guys have things for us to watch, let us know, because we are open to watch anything, and for movies as well. So that is it for today's episode of The Writer's Cut. That is, this is me, Jasant, saying goodbye. Cam?
Goodbye, and thank you for watching.
Yeah. And even though, we both know that this ends the broadcast and it ends the call, this was fun, Cam. We have 2 weeks to decide everything else. So, definitely, I've had fun all 3 times. So, definitely excited for next episode.
Me as well.
Yeah. Captain Charisma says Project Power, which came out like 2 days ago, I believe, or yesterday.
I saw that. I was gonna recommend that actually. I couldn't remember the title though.
Okay. Well, yeah, we might check out Project Power then. So we have 2 options right now: Project Power and Doom Patrol. So one's a movie, one's a TV show. So we have some ideas now. So I'll see you, Cam, in 2 weeks, and I'll see any of you guys. I don't know. But yeah, this was fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that subscribe button. Peace, guys. All right. Bye, guys.